Global Bioenergies, we are active in this big field of industrial biotechnology. And I think industrial biotechnology is an expression that most people would not know what it really corresponds to. So maybe to take it really some step back, historically, 1,000 years ago already, industrial biotechnology has been used without the expression. For example, to produce alcohol, produce alcohol for wine, for beer. What you use is microorganisms such as yeast or bacteria. For alcohol, it's mostly yeast. And those yeast cells would take some sugar, and they would kind of eat the sugar. And inside the cell, there is a whole transformation that goes through different enzymes. It is catalyzed by different enzymes. And at the end, the cell would produce an alcohol. So this is, as I said, what has been done for many years. Recently, since some decades, the same kind of process has been used for biofuels. Especially, it has been known, I think, in Brazil, where ethanol is produced for fuel. And now also in other countries like the US and in Europe, you have some percentages of ethanol in your gasoline. So that's maybe from where most people would know industrial biotechnology. Then there are some newer developments, for example, also in the pharmaceutical sector, where for the insulin production, historically you would have taken insulin out of pigs and injected into people. Nowadays it's produced by microorganisms, by bacteria. So that is also producing a substance through microorganisms. So what we do is the same. We take a microorganism, and that microorganism would take renewable substances such as sugar. Inside the microorganism, there would be transformations catalyzed by enzymes, and at the end, you produce a molecule of interest. Now, in our case, the particularity is that it's not a microorganism that is naturally found in nature, but because the molecules that we want to address are special molecules. They are molecules which are really at the core of the petrochemical industry. So it's the big markets, the big chemical markets correspond to a type of molecules which are called light olefins, or the fuels, gasoline, jet fuel, diesel. These are gigantic markets, but so far there is a problem with bioproduction because you cannot really produce the identical molecules as what petrol can give you. And the molecules petrol can give you, they have quite some advantages. And also industry, with all the infrastructure, they are now designed for using exactly those molecules. So the purpose of our company was to do industrial biotechnology, what I described in the beginning, but to produce those molecules that are identical to what you can get from oil. Since those microorganisms, they are not found in nature, we have to really design them, and that is our particularity. From the drop-in substances that we want to address, we have 6 molecules that are of interest to us, and isobutene is the one we are most interested in because of its price level, its market dynamics, competitive situation, all kinds of things. It's a molecule of 4 carbon atoms, and it has quite a big market of over $20 billion US. It's used, for example, to produce plexiglass, to produce synthetic butyl rubber, which is used, for example, for tire production. You can also use it to produce isooctane, which would be a drop-in fuel. So you can use it for fuel, plastics, and elastomer production with an overall market of over $20 billion. Synthos is probably a company that is not so much known to the big public. It's one of the biggest East European chemical companies, and they in particular supply tire producers such as Michelin with rubber products. And one molecule they're in particular interested in is butadiene, which is the second molecule for our company. It's second in our, let's say, development pipeline. And so they have a contract with us where they would get significant rights on the future butadiene production process in exchange of development help, which is in the first place financial, a couple of million euros, and later on also in terms of upscaling capabilities. So now we still do the development work and they pay. Later on it will be more like a mixed collaboration, and at the end they will produce it and we would receive royalties on the production. just to take it step by step, first we need, as I said, to identify the enzymes. Then we need to work on the strain to make get the productivity and the yield right, or optimize fermentation parameters, and then we do the upscaling, which means making it at bigger and bigger scale. And that's where the pilot, the industrial pilot, comes in. And we are actually planning to do 2 industrial pilots. The first one we already have announced where it would be, namely in northern France, and we got the project got over 5 million euros grant from the French government. And so that is something that we're currently working on, establishing that first industrial pilot. It's supposed to be operational from mid-2014 on. And then the second industrial pilot, we have said that before, or latest, first semester 2014, we should announce where the second industrial pilot would be. And that would be the last step before the real commercial size factory. And that one should be, as I said, announced pretty soon and operational from mid-2015 on. With the first really industrial scale factory being scheduled to start in 2017-2018. So isobutene is the most advanced one. Butadiene is the second one, where we have this partnership with Synthos, and we are currently there, not in the pilot phase, but in the, let's say, in the enzyme optimization phase. The third one that we have already announced that we have all the enzymes is propylene. Propylene, just from a market perspective, is the biggest one of the 3, but it has a slightly lower market price than isobutene. So we think it's a good way to do propylene only as the third molecule, because we also have in parallel other actors on the market that work on getting us cheaper feedstock. Yeah, we will be the ones, we need to buy the feedstock one day from external sources, or our license partners need to buy it. And currently there's a whole development in the industry taking place to make those feedstock cheaper, especially second generation feedstock. And we think in 2 or 3 years, and that's, I think, industry consensus, it will be cheaper. And so then also molecules such as propylene should be at competitive pricing with our process. That's a very good question, because very often people think that because there is so much fossil, cheap shale gas now available, that it's kind of a problem for these bioproduction methods, because they have to compete against cheap products derived from shale gas. And I would say that is partially right, but only for a certain type of products, which is especially ethylene. And we do have ethylene on our list, but this is exactly one reason why ethylene got rather down prioritized in our internal development pipeline. On the other side, it means the shale gas revolution means there is more and more shale gas and shale gas cracking. And because of this, you have less and less naphtha cracking. Naphtha cracking comes from traditional oil. And in this naphtha cracking, you do produce significant fractions of the C4 and C5 molecules, which is exactly isobutene, butadiene, isoprene. And so the supply of those molecules is going down because of the shale gas revolution, and the price is going up. And there is a shortage that is predicted by most of the analysts. And so by focusing on the C4 and C5 molecules, isobutene, etc., we go for the molecules that should see a price increase or at least a price stabilization. And so in a certain way, our technology, one of the reasons we came up with it was to to give an answer to this shale gas issue. We think that as of today, we are clearly undervalued company, which is partially due also to the rather low liquidity of our shares, which of course for certain investors is a no-go criteria. We are working on progressively getting that problem fixed, and we think that early investors who are ready to join us in that challenge and who take the time to look a little bit into our technology, what we have communicated so far, the partnerships that we have done with different industrial groups, and that can be convinced to invest as of today. They have really a company that addresses this very big petrol market, which is one of the biggest market worldwide, and with quite a big part of this huge market. So, well, I think that there is quite some potential in our share price over the next years to come.